I don't want to find any fake things. I want to get to some facts. You seem to have a very clear idea, Israel, of how many Hamas terrorists you've killed. You've said the number, but you have absolutely no idea how many children have died in the process. I simply ask you why. Why
Pierce,
do the lives of the Hamas terrorists
Pierce,
get recorded,
listen to me.
but you don't record the number of children you
I'm
killed?
willing here to give you the strategy about the war, because this was the question you were asking.
Why don't you answer my question?
I'm giving you only the answers that I have.
Just tell me why you know one number and not the other.
But the number makes a difference just if you're targeting civilians. If Israel is not targeting civilians, according to the international law,
it doesn't make any difference to the number of children who died.
You lie all the time. Just say 20.
It has a difference according to the international humanitarian law.
How do you know about the number of terrorists killed, but you don't know how many children have been killed?
I'm saying
How
again,
do you know one, not the other? Explain to me.
I'm
treat me like a village idiot. Why is it that you know one number, but you don't know the other?
According to the international humanitarian law, it makes a lot of difference if you're targeting civilians, if you're targeting the legitimate war aims.
I'm not talking about who you're targeting. I'm not saying you're deliberately targeting the children who've been killed.
Very good. So that's the only thing that we are discussing.
Deliberately targeting. Don't say that, Bruce.
Because you know how many terrorists you've killed, you say, but you have no idea how many children. Because those are the people we targeted. So how many children have died in the process? Why don't you know that number too?
Pierce, please ask this question to the people that can give you the answer. I don't have the answer.
Who has the answer?
Please don't ask me questions.
Who has the answer? Who has the answer?
I don't have the answer. And I will tell you something.
You're the Israeli ambassador to my country. Who else should I ask?
Well, you should ask one question. How do you make sure that the 7th of October won't be repeated? And this is the question you and everyone who criticizes Israel at the moment doesn't have the answer to. And again,
here's a question.
We are not denying the fact that war is a bad thing, but we never wanted this war.
Why don't you let international journalists into Gaza so they can report fairly and freely without being led around by the IDF? Let the journalists in because you banned them, and the only reason you continue to ban international journalists,
they killed 200 journalists inside Gaza.
It's not because of our safety, as you also quaintly put it. It's because you don't want the Western journalists to get in there and see what's really happening. Only you know why. Only the Israeli government knows why you want to continue banning journalists from international media organizations coming in at their own risk assessment and actually working out whether anything you're saying is true or not. And it may be if you let the international journalists in, well, let me just finish. It may be if you let them in, then they wouldn't just count the number of terrorists who are being killed. They'd be also able to record how many children are being killed, because it strikes me as utterly extraordinary that you, as the ambassador to my country, are able to say with complete clarity and certainty 30,000 Hamas have been killed, but you seem to have absolutely no idea how many children have died in the process. No idea. Or you have no interest. I don't know which one it is.
Pierce, let me go back to your question about the journalists. I think in the end of the day,
let them in.
We are coming to the point where journalists will be allowed to get into Gaza as long as there is no risk for them. And you know that
it's got nothing to do with you, the risk to journalists.
It's
not your problem.
From my point of view, once there is no risk to their life, I'm sure they'll be allowed.
They're going to kill them. They have killed almost 200 Palestinian journalists who are the only voices who are telling the outside world of what's going on out inside there. Don't you notice that Western TVs don't use footages from the Al Jazeera? Remember the footage of that girl running around inside that fire in that house? Did you see that any place? I will bet you my whole everything I own. I bet you my life. That who's that? An Israeli child. I was running around through that house and it's on fire. It will be in every newspaper, every channel, cable, TV. They will have it on T-shirts on the walls of 7th Avenue. Shows you that human lives have value, of different values in the market of Western media. Palestinian life have no value at all.
Flannel ambassador, don't treat us like idiots, please. Yeah. We're not idiots. You're not doing it for our safety. You've banned the journalists so that they don't report on what is actually happening. Only you know why you're doing that. I don't know. Maybe you're doing everything completely fairly. Maybe it is the most moral war ever waged in history, as you keep saying. But the longer it goes on without you allowing journalists in, the less people believe that, and the more people believe you have something to hide.
There is just there is just one question here, never received an answer. How do you promise to the Israelis that they won't have 7th of October being repeated again? If
I got it. Give them their country and let them live free. Don't hold them under occupation. They just, Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem, that's what they left of their country. And all that stuff will end. They will have a military, they will have a constitution, they will have a police force, they will have everything. Right now, it's just a ragtag people fighting to independence, as every other group has done throughout history.
Everyone agrees that Hamas shouldn't control the Gaza Strip, as you just said.
Yeah.
Who will do the job? Who will
Palestinian
volunteer to demilitarize the Gaza
you've
Strip?
been ignoring inside Ramallah.
Why don't you work? Here's my suggestion. Why don't you work harder on the diplomatic side to resolve this conflict, this war? And why don't you bring in all the people that can help resolve that, rather than continuing to blow everything up that you can see with your forces? Why don't you try and resolve things diplomatically, which in the end is how you got the other hostages out to date? So, it seems to me the bombardment strategy just doesn't work. And all you're doing is making Israel, a country, by the way, that I love, and I love Jewish people. It's got nothing to do with either the country or the people, but everything to do with the Israeli government, which has now got people like Smotrich out there very clearly, very brazenly, and very unambiguously dictating a term of genocide on the Palestinian people, where he wants them all out of Gaza. Now, do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's the solution?
I'm not speaking for Bezalel Smotrich. I'm not his spokesperson. I'm the Israeli ambassador.
What do you think?
And I think whatever the government thinks, because I'm ambassador, I'm representing a government here.
How are we supposed to know what the government thinks when he's out there saying that?
I represented the last 4 governments that Israel had. And let me tell you something. There is not even one leader in Israel today that is running for office, whether he's in the opposition or in government, that believes that Hamas should stay in power. And we released 197 hostages just because we had a combination of a diplomatic pressure together with the military pressure. Nothing would have happened from a goodwill. This is a terror organization. They don't do things from goodwill. There is no goodwill in Hamas. And because you know it, again, I'm disappointed that some people lose patience. Can you lose patience in the middle of the Second World War and just let the Nazi regime to win? I don't think it would have been a good idea.
I tell you what I've lost patience with.
In the middle of the Second World War.
I've lost patience when you start starving kids. I lose patience when you, as an ambassador,
so this is a lie. This is a complete lie. You know we get aid into Gaza.
It's not a lie.
How do we starve people if we let aid in?
When you launch a 3-month blockade of an already impoverished, hungry people who are bunkering down for nightly bombing raids, when you do that, you will starve people. You will starve.
The intention was not to let Hamas get over and take over the aid. And there was no other solutions. No one was offering a better mechanism.
But it was the consequence of your actions. Do you accept that?
As I said again, Israel never was planning to starve anyone. And our actions are speaking more than our words, because in the end of the day, tons of aid got into Gaza for months and months and months. And now I think it's time for all of us.
I literally saw footage yesterday, or today it was, of literally thousands of Palestinians desperately fighting. One lost their life as they're fighting for scraps of food. Do you think that's the behavior of well-fed people who are not actually starving hungry? Do you think?
You're evil people.
I think what I've seen in the last
who have been starved now for 3 months.
What I've seen in the last few months, I've seen, first of all, in the last 2 days, I've seen mechanisms that works. I've seen happy families that receive the aid, and they know.
He told her, don't you think that what they did when they stormed the food centers is the behavior of well-fed people? Well, at least, we got new mechanism right now, and we are distributing food. They haven't disturbed nothing. First of all, you're not supposed to use food as a weapon. You're doing everything you accuse the Nazis of doing. I read history. I said, the Nazis used food against the Jewish in the ghettos in Poland, and for fun, they will throw scraps at them and see how they're going to fight in front of them for the food. You're doing the same thing. I don't know. Maybe you are the Nazis that escaped from Germany. They didn't go to Argentina. You guys might be scared when we don't even know that.
Know that now the mechanism is so much better. And it gives family by family a box of
everything you do, you're
being
liars,
protected
you're
by
hypocrites,
American
you are
companies.
evil
I think
by
it's
nature.
so much better than what used to be.
All right.
And it would have been nice if the UN organizations would have joined the distribution rather than boycotting this system and just letting the criticism on Israel to continue without them playing along with the new mechanism. It could have been really helpful.
Just to remind you, the most savage criticism of Israel is coming from your own former prime ministers, not one, but two, and former leaders of the IDF. It's not coming from necessarily people like me, even though I am getting increasingly critical because I find the answers I'm getting just increasingly ridiculous. Now, out of fairness, because we know each other, I'm going to give you one last chance just to tell me, even a ballpark figure, of how many children have died in Gaza.
Piers, I think I'm very famous for saying the truth. And the truth is that I don't know. If I would have known the number, I wouldn't have hired.
She's famous. I drink some water for that. Did you just say she's famous? She's known. You know, fame is when the whole world knows you, and known is when your friends or people that you deal with. She's famous for telling the truth. She's been lying for the last hour and avoiding and dodging and wobbling everywhere and leaving. She cannot. You can't defend
why do you
genocide.
Keep on asking the same question again and again?
Because I don't understand how you can know how many terrorists you've killed, but you don't know how many civilians you've killed. Why do you know one but not the other?
As I said again, I think that it's totally irrelevant to the main question the humanitarian international law is asking. The international humanitarian law is never about civilians getting killed. It's only about who are you targeting. And if you're doing a legitimate warfare.
Are you happy that people are going to watch you as an ambassador to your country say that it's irrelevant how many children have been killed?
It's not what I said, Piers, and you're totally distorting my words. I said, according to the international law, if you want to check if war is fair or not, the only thing you check is the targets that a country that is fighting, whether they're targeting the militants and not targeting civilians. This is what I said. And please don't twist my words.
Can you confirm this then, given you have no idea how many children have been killed? Can you tell me, are the IDF under specific instructions from the government or from their commanders to only count the number of Hamas terrorists they kill and to completely ignore how many children they're killing?
Never. Never. This is not the case.
So why you don't have the number?
The case is that the IDF...
Do they count civilian deaths?
But the IDF has one mission, to work according to the international law when it's fighting a moral war. And even your own historian, Professor Andrew Roberts, said when he sees those circumstances of Gaza, this is the lowest ratio of terrorists versus civilians. So this is your own historian, well-respected military historian that is saying that about our war.
Sorry, with respect, how do you know, given you have no idea how many children you've killed?
As I said, Professor Andrew Roberts did.
How do you know it's the lowest ratio? You don't know how many children you've killed.
But
how do you know?
But in the end of the day, it's not just about children. When you're comparing, listen, Piers, here you're really creating like the totally wrong picture. People, in the end of the day, we know who are civilians. Civilians includes also mature people that are...
How do you know the ratio of civilian to Hamas deaths if you have no idea?
They know.
As I said, you asked me about children.